Okay, our third test is over Chapter 6, the bone as a tissue, and Chapter 8, which is all about joints. So to start off, we're doing the two broad classifications of joints. So it's either based on function, how they work, or down below here you'll see structure, how they're built. Okay, so for function, we've got three types. It's all based on the amount of movement that's allowed. So there's synarthroses, amphiarthroses, and diarthroses. I got syn highlighted already. SYN syn means together. And guys, anytime you see arthro or arthur, like an arthritis, it means a joint. And if you didn't know that, it's probably worth writing down. All right, so this means together, syn, arthro joints, together joints. All right, here's what you want to write though. What's together about them? They're immovable. They're like kind of fused together, quote unquote. So synarthroses are immovable joints. So I call them synarthrotic joints. Like for example, in the adult, the sutures of the skull is a really good example. That's the one your book uses too. By the way, guys, look at the beginning of Chapter 8. Again, I don't have my book, but there's a couple pictures in there that follow like right along with what we're doing. All right, amphiarthroses. These guys are, depending on what exact word you want to use, it doesn't really matter. I went with somewhat movable, kind of movable, sort of, kind of. They move to some extent. And the examples your book uses is a good one, so I'm going to steal it and use it. The little space there. Intervertebral joints, the joints between the vertebrae. Any given one's got a little bit of give. Collectively, the back can move quite a bit, but the joints between any two vertebrae just move to some extent. All right, so we got not movable, kind of movable, and then these guys are highly movable. All right, so they're called diarthroses or diarthrotic joints. They're highly movable joints. And for an example, I'll let you guys do whatever you want. Take your pick. Like most of what we kind of think of as joints or diarthrotic joints, like your knee or your hip or your shoulder or whatever. Pick one of those. Okay, so functions based on how much they move. They don't, they sort of do, or they totally do. All right, structures based on how they're built. So it's tissues present, and probably maybe the most important thing is if they have a joint cavity or not. If there's a fluid-filled space in there. So we got fibrous joints, cartilaginous joints, and on the next page we'll see the synovial joints. So fibrous joints, as the name implies, are made of fibrous tissue, and they don't have a joint cavity. These won't pop, guys. Any joint you got that'll pop is a synovial joint. It's a fluid-filled. It's the fluid stuff that's getting compressed in there that makes the popping. So fibrous joints, we got the sutures of the skull. I don't really think we need to add anything there. But I don't know if you guys notice on the skulls, in lab, you see the sutures as kind of like, cracks between the cranial bones. If you look on our cadavers and on us, there's actually some fibrous material that fills that in. So they are fibrous joints. Sometimes they ossify later on and just become bone too. But all right, so what I'm about to say here is not 100% true, but it's pretty dang close. So syndesmoses are pretty much ligaments. There are also things called aponeuroses. But anyway, it's pretty much a ligament. So when you got a chunk of dense connective tissue hooking one bone up to another bone. Now, so like there's ligaments in our knee, like some kind of infamous in there. But there's all sorts of other stuff too. So that doesn't count as one of these. The knee is a synovial joint. But if the only thing you got is a ligament hooking one bone up to another, that's one of these guys. All right, so fibrous connective tissue, the fibrous joints, and then the cartilaginous joints have cartilage, also no joint cavity. So these guys won't pop either. And there's SYN syn for together, and there's chondro for cartilage. So these are together with cartilage joints, quote unquote. But it's hyaline cartilage that's going to unite the bones. For example, I think this is the one your book does. It's kind of, maybe seems kind of weird, but the epiphyseal plates, remember those growth plates? So remember, you got a growth plate in kids at the end of each long bone. Sort of kind of the femur or the humerus, or whatever long bone on a kid, which each has two growth plates. It's kind of three bones hooked up by two growth plates, sort of kind of. Immovable joints, So they're synarthrotic joints also in the functional classification. But structurally, they're cartilaginous joints. All right, symphyses. Here you've got fiber. There's other stuff in it too. There's some hyaluronic cartilage at the caps, but kind of the body of it is made of fibrocartilage. And a good example here is something we mentioned in class before. If you remember, it's the pubic symphysis. And if you don't remember it, oh, that's not the picture I want. That's the picture I want. Here, I'll just leave it where it is. I think you guys can see it there. Remember, it's the joint right there. The arrow's pointing at it. It's that chunk of like cartilage right there that hooks the two pubic bones up. It's also it would have been a good example of an amphiarthrotic joint. It's kind of movable. It's got a little bit of give to it. Okay, synovial joints. Hey, structurally complex joints with a joint cavity. Find it's not exactly this picture, but there's a picture in your book that's really close to this. It's going to be about, I don't know, 3 or 4, 5 pages into the chapter 8. But it's showing you all the stuff that these synovial joints have. I know one thing that your book has that my list don't, and that we're going to add on, are check out here, right there. It says blood vessels and nerves, or blood vessel and nerve. But anyway, you can see all the other stuff we're going to talk about too. There's a fluid-filled cavity. There's a capsule that surrounds it, which is called the joint capsule, but we'll mention the synovial membrane, and the outside's really tough. It's that fibrous capsule. You got this articular cartilage that covers the ends, and then here you got the cavity, and then there's fluid that fills that cavity. We'll talk about some of this other stuff in here too, like bursa and stuff. But all right, so let's go back to this. All right, so 5 characteristics for our joints. We got articular cartilage. So if you don't remember articular cartilage from when we did it the other day, that is that. There's a protective cartilage cap that goes over the ends of the bones. So you got that. You've got a joint. I'm not going to add anything on joint cavity, guys. A joint cavity is a joint cavity. But in that cavity, excuse me, is synovial fluid, which here says egg white-like fluid. I'm going to add here that it fills joint cavity, like cushions in the joint, and kind of circulates in there and lubes it up. It's kind of interesting. It says egg white. You see ova there? No, ovaries make eggs. Ova means egg. So if you look at this, the fluid in a synovial joint, it looks like raw egg white. It's got about the same consistency. Okay, so we got articular cartilage, a joint cavity that's filled with synovial fluid. Wrapping the whole thing is a articular capsule, a joint capsule. We got 2 sublayers. The fibrous layers on the outside is really tough. When we get back into the lab, and I can show you on the cadaver, it's really thick. Like when we cut through dissecting it, it was really hard to get through. On our last female, I broke a scalpel blade chopping through it. So you got a dense connective tissue outer part that's really, really tough. On the inside, you've got a loose connective tissue. I don't remember exactly what it is. We're not going to really even worry about it. Exactly, it's tissue type, but here's what you want to write down here. That synovial membrane on the inside is what actually produces the synovial fluid. And that's going to get a nod again when we talk about rheumatoid arthritis later on. And you've also got reinforcing ligaments, and I don't know what to add there. They're ligaments, and they reinforce, and we're done. Oh, no, we're not. 6. Go ahead and add this in. So, guys, whenever we do our 3rd test in here, I always ask a question, what are the 5 characteristics of synovial joints? And if you forget one of these, one you can add on, and the question will also say, hey, for a point of extra credit, you can tell me the 6th one that your book does. And it's easy to remember, nerves and blood vessels. So add that in there, nerves and blood vessels. All right. Menisci, synovial joint accessories, things that are associated with some synovial joints. Few joints have menisci, plural, meniscus, singular. It's a disc of fibrocartilage that separates the 2 surfaces of the bone. Some famous ones are in the knee. There we go. Lateral and medial meniscus of the knee joint. I tried to find a picture. Here, I'm going to move you over a little bit. this is a back view of the knee, and it's showing some of the ligaments and stuff that are in there. But here you can see the lateral and medial condyle of the femur sitting on top of the tibia, and right there and right there's the menisci that are kind of like cushioning and stabilizing that joint. So wait, do we need to write anything there? I don't think so. All right, good enough. A bursa, or bursae plural, are fibrous sacs that are filled with synovial fluid that are on the outside of the joint. So they're not on the inside of the joint capsule, they're on the outside of the joint capsule. Well, here, we'll just cover that here. So just flip the page. Location. Any areas on the that are around the joint that are like high friction zones. So just write that, areas of friction around joints. And then for function, it's just a cushion to reduce that friction. All right, so areas of friction around joints, and it's a cushion. So we're going to look at that here in a minute. Let's look at this now. So here's the knee joint, and it's got several bursa around it. There's a picture of this in your book, too, that's really good. I forget the name of a lot of these guys, but yeah, this one I remembered. The prepatellar bursa, because it's front of the patella. It's looking from the knee from the side. And there's one here below the kneecap, the infrapatellar, and one above it, suprapatellar. So they've all got new, can't talk. They've all got good names. But if you get like some excessive friction or something like that on that one, so if you heard of, here it says housemaiden's knee, or like people get water on the knee, it's like inflammation of some of these bursa that are around the knee joint. And like this guy, you're looking up real close. Maybe, yeah, you can probably tell. Like, probably can't see all the caption there. Prepatellar bursitis. So that knee's pretty swollen, inflamed. Okay, tendon sheaths. Here, it's a similar in structure and function to bursa, but they wrap around tendons. Guys, the function, it's the same thing. A tendon sheath is, sheaths like you got a knife or something, is what, or sword. It's what you put your blade in when you're not using it. So kind of like that, they wrap around the outside of the tendons. But down here, function, just write it. It's a cushion or protection or both. Reduce friction. It's a cushion, protection, reduce friction, something like that. All right, here, factors that contribute to joint strength besides the actual joint tissue, besides the ligaments and stuff that's in the joint. Here we got surfaces of the here. I messed this up. We got 1, surfaces of the articulating bones, and we're going to do these examples, and then this should be number 2. So make that a 2. Muscles surrounding the joint. How much this matters depends. So like on the shoulder joint. Remember, we're looking at how much it contributes to strength. Not much. So, and here, let's fill this out, and then we'll go to the hip. Some sutures, a bunch. All right, so the shoulder, the actual way the bones fit together in the shoulder doesn't really reinforce the joint much. In the hip, you get some. In the sutures, those bones interlock together like puzzle pieces. They're really held together really good. So here we see on the shoulder joint, there's the glenoid cavity, and there's the head of the humerus, and it really, it doesn't really kind of hold the bone in there all that much. You got the acromion up above, which kind of like makes a roof. But it's not a very stable joint. It's one of the most easily dislocated joints. The flip side of that, the good side of that, I guess, is it's also the most movable joint. The hip is much less likely to be dislocated, but it's also less movable than the shoulder because of that. So remember, you got the acetabulum there, that big dip in the side of the pelvis, and then the head of the femur puts in there pretty good, and it gets some pretty good reinforcement. So on this, here guys, muscles surrounding the joint. We've got a little bit of time left. So very important. The muscles surrounding the joint are always a huge factor contributing to the strength of that joint. And that's where we got to quit this video. So in this part.